Borderlines know what they're doing and hurt you on purpose, right? I'm going to make him suffer, she says. And why your anger, your rage towards them won't go away. Hi, this is Mike, and this is the One Thing That Heals BPD and NPD Abuse channel. And I tell you exactly how you can never, let me repeat myself, how you can never be angry at your borderline ex again. Are you still angry? Of course you are. It makes perfect sense. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There is no human being who dates an untreated or undiagnosed toxic borderline who doesn't end up full of rage at some point. You're either full of rage or you're full of denial, but can you be both? It's only normal. I talk about how I survived my borderline girlfriend in my book, How I Survived My Borderline Girlfriend. And I tell you exactly what I did to completely, totally relieve myself of the rage, the resentment, the anger, the pain that never goes away. You know, BPD is a gift that keeps on giving. You know, you get involved with a borderline, you get infected. You get infected, it gets into your brain, into your heart, literally into your nervous system, and it won't go away on its own. So of course you're full of rage. The question is, does the borderline know what they're doing, and do they hurt you on purpose? It's an excellent question. I was actually going to make this exact video, and sure enough, somebody commented on it and gave me perfect fodder. It's literally the day I was thinking of doing it. And this person has given me their permission. They, quote, want the publicity, so I'm going to share their comment. So this is in response to my video, BPDs only stay with one kind of person, the narcissist. Right? That's what the video is about. But this person says, seemingly the comment doesn't seem to make any sense because it doesn't address the title of the video. This person says, quote, they can't help it, unquote. It's not their fault. People with BPD are nothing but excuses, he says. Excuses are like a-holes. Everyone has one and nobody wants to see it. Crush people with BPD every chance you get. No, he's actually full of rage. I mean, you're crushing somebody, you're full of rage. So the thing is the borderline doing it on purpose? Do they know what they're doing? You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If I tell you that they can't help it because they have a mental illness, that's not going to take your rage away. If I tell you that they are doing it on purpose, that's not going to make you feel any better either. But the reason that you ask this question isn't because you want justice. So forgive me, this person wants the publicity. John, you seem like a nice guy. You responded to me in a pretty nice way. John, you're full of crap. You're not interested in justice. You're not saying this because your righteous indignation against a wrong that is being perpetrated against the world is making it impossible for you to live in this world without saying something, damn it. Nope, that's not what's going on at all. So I responded to John and I said, interesting comment, John, especially since the video is not about how borderlines can't help it. The video is about how borderlines only stay with narcissists. I said, that leads me to believe that your borderline left you for a narcissist and you are extremely hurt and full of rage. I can safely assume you have not done the one thing, and you haven't heard me say 1,000,000 times that if you are still angry at your borderline, then you are still in love with them. You are still in denial about your borderline being mentally ill, and you are still hoping that one day your borderline will decide to love you again. That's what the rage is about. The rage isn't about your sense of injustice at them knowing what they're doing and knowingly hurting you, which is a whole other question. The fact that you need to portray them, because according to you in that video, I said they can't help it. Well, there's at least two denials going on, multiple. But the first one is you are in denial that they have a mental illness. Now, it serves you, John, it serves you to say that they have a mental illness when you want to badmouth their extremely destructive, irrational behavior. But when it comes to them acting irrationally in a way that hurts you, then you all of a sudden want to make them sane. You want to give them rational ability to know the right thing to do, to know the difference between right and wrong. When it serves you, you want to give them you want to not say that they have a narcissistic mental illness. You want them to have empathy for you. You want them to not be sociopathic. You want them to not dissociate. You want them to be able to rationally know what your feelings are and know what they're doing every moment. Because then you can justify your rage at them by saying they did it on purpose. So what's the difference between the average person, including me? I went through this same phase before I did the one thing I talk about in my book. I tell you exactly how to heal from it. Before I did that, I did the same thing where I was full of rage, and she knows what she's doing. She's a horrible person. But here's the problem. The problem is you still love them. And this is the problem. In normal relationships, when somebody betrays you, cheats on you, hurts you, you can get very angry, but the anger will dissipate over time. Why? Because you are not in a trauma bond. So John, you are still in a trauma bond. As a child, I don't know anything about your history, but I know that your mother didn't love you enough. I know that your mother didn't hold you when you cried. I know that your mother didn't respond well to you when you came to her with your anger. I can remember walking up to my mom when I was 4 years old and telling her I hated her. Now, to my mom's credit, in that moment, she didn't respond negatively. But, if you have a destructive, narcissistic, non-individuated mother, and as a little child you walk up and you say, I hate you, Mom, she'll slap you across the face and say, don't you dare talk to me like that, I'm your mother. The end result is that you don't have anybody who allows you to be in pain. So I know this about you. The reason why you fell in love with the borderline is because she mimicked that same dynamic you had with your mother, who didn't see you, didn't love you, and didn't nurture you in your feelings. And so you wanted to get it right this time. Here's the saddest part of all of it. The reason why you can't let go of your rage towards your borderline ex, the reason why you want to blame her and say that she is rational and knew what she was doing, is because you can't tolerate the thought that your mother didn't know what she was doing, that your mother couldn't help but love you. If your mother can't love you, it means that as an infant and a toddler, the message you get is that you don't deserve to exist, that you don't have any value. Because as a little kid, all you have is feelings and sensations and needs. And little kids rightly are grandiose. They say, my feelings are the entire universe. How can you not see me? How can you not see my value and the value that I deserve to be loved and taken care of? How can you not see that? We can't comprehend that. Why? Because Mom is God. Mom, of course, Mom knows everything. Dad knows everything. Dad can fix everything. Mom can do everything. If they are unwilling to meet my emotional needs, it means that they're saying I have no value. And I can't tolerate that. Little kids don't understand mental illness. So, John, your rage towards your borderline ex is about the fact that you can't accept that your mom wasn't able to love you. It infuriates you to think that your mom didn't love you. So you found a borderline, and you know what happens when you get together with them. They transfer and project onto you. They treat you like God. So your grandiosity as a little kid, all little kids have grandiosity. The mother is supposed to meet that grandiosity. Yes, your feelings are the most important thing in the universe to me. You are the most important thing. When the borderline transfers and projects onto you exactly what you want to make you God, you feel it as the mother nurturing your grandiosity. Now, the difference between you and the borderline is that you don't have a mental illness. That you don't have to have a mental illness to have grandiosity. Mental illness means that you dissociate, that you don't have an identity, that you don't remember what you did, or if you do remember what you did, you don't identify with it. You think I'm making excuses? I want you to think about this for a second. John, you're saying that I make excuses for borderlines when I say that their brains are so fractured that they don't even remember what they did the day before because they can't identify with that person. They don't have an identity. That means that they're seriously mentally ill. So for you to consciously choose, if I'm going to use your own values against you, for you to consciously choose to believe that a mentally ill person has the same faculties as you, that knows what they're doing, and they have a connection to their own identity, they remember what they did yesterday. For you to do that is, you know what I mean? That means that you don't understand. That means that you're in denial of the fact that you have this whole time, up to right now, you have been putting the responsibility onto a mentally ill person to think rationally, to not dissociate, to have an identity, and to make you the most important person in the world. Because they didn't do that, you are regressed to your infantile toddler stage where you're standing in front of your mother with your hands on your hips saying, I hate you, and your mom is slapping you across the face or yelling at you or ghosting you or doing whatever she did to tell you that your feelings don't have any value here. Your grandiosity means nothing. I'm your mother. How dare you talk to me like that? It's very sad. It's very sad what the appropriate response to your borderline treating you irrationally for all the love that you gave her is not to blame her. It's to realize, oh my God, I've never been seen. I've never been loved. Nobody's ever taken my feelings in the moment as being important. You mistook in the beginning when your borderline love bombed you and made you feel like you were seen and loved. You conflated that. You mistook that for actual love. It wasn't. This was somebody who is mentally ill, who is traumatized even worse than you were, who is desperately trying to survive, and in their psychosis. This is a mental illness. John, you're not psychotic. You're neurotic, but you're not psychotic. She has a psychosis where in order to survive, she has to create a false reality. And in that false reality is a God who will see her as the most beautiful, wonderful. She has grandiosity as being the perfect worshiper of God. And she wants God to give her the ultimate status of being the best, most evolved being in the universe, where she can sit on a throne and God will glorify her and fix her. You thought that was you. You thought she loved you. If, according to you, she knows what she's doing. She was sitting there going, what am I going to do today? You know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to find some poor schmuck and I'm going to make him think that I love him. And then I'm going to mess with his head. That's your grandiosity. You think you are so important that somebody's going to go out of their way to destroy you. They're going to take all of the time and effort out of their life. They're going to invest weeks, months, or years into making you feel like you're God just so that they can pull the rug out from underneath you. Nobody has the time for that. And John, you're not that important to the world. She's not thinking about you. So you can't have it both ways. You can't, on the one hand, say, she doesn't pay attention to me. She doesn't give me any value. She treats me like crap. And at the same time say, I'm so important that this person went out of her way to spend all of these weeks and years to make me feel good so she could make me miserable. No, you think I'm making excuses for her by saying she can't help it. Well, the reason why you can't see that is that you are still in trauma pause mode. You're insane at this moment as well, in your neurosis. Your insanity is that when she love bombed you, you regressed to your infantile stage of need. And the feelings that little kids, toddlers and babies have towards their mother is, if my mother doesn't love me, I'm going to die. And you had that feeling. We all do. And your mother didn't give you that. It created a trauma within you. Now, you're lucky that it wasn't so bad that it turned you into a borderline or a narcissist. But it turned you into a potential victim, just waiting. Now, maybe you've been in other relationships, maybe you haven't. I know what it's like to be with a borderline, and it's the worst pain I've ever experienced, and that's saying a lot. I had a mom with borderline tendencies, an alcoholic dad, narcissistic, abusive brother. I lived with this craziness my whole life, but nobody ever hurt me as badly as my borderline girlfriend. Hint, get the book. Nobody ever hurt me that badly. So I understand your pain. But what happened when she love bombed you is that you regressed to your infantile, grandiose state where you needed to be completely doted upon and nurtured. Otherwise, you would die. Now, the neurosis is that the reality is that you're not going to die if somebody doesn't treat you like, an entitled infant. Which is what they're doing when they're love bombing you. They're treating you like an entitled infant. It's not your fault that you regressed into that state. But what's happened is that your nervous system then completely took over your brain and completely took over your reasoning. And in your mind, she became your mom. And your mom is perfect. Your mom is God. Your mom is all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful. And if the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving being doesn't meet your grandiose, entitled, narcissistic childhood needs, then obviously she's doing it on purpose. So you're in denial over the fact that you have a seriously unresolved codependent issue. You're in denial over the fact that you're still in trauma pause. Now, when you're in trauma pause, what happens is, as I've shared many times in these videos, is that how a narcissist abuses is they do intermittent reinforcement, creates a trauma bond. They meet your deepest childhood grandiose need for total love, attention, and nurturing. They meet that, they flip that switch on, and they only do that to people who have that switch. Healthy people, they're not interested in. So if she was interested in you, it means that you had a trauma bond switch that could be flipped on, and she saw that. She saw that, she felt it because she felt it in herself. She thinks to herself, oh my God, we're the same. He's just like me. He's not going to hurt me. But what's really going on is she goes, oh, he's got a trauma bond switch in there. I can turn that on and then I can get fixed. So she saw that in you, flipped that switch on by meeting your narcissistic childhood grandiosity for love and attention. And then you got not only emotionally bonded to her, but your nervous system got bonded to her, and all of your regressed childhood needs for bonding with mother got transferred over to her. So you can't leave. I've grown up, I've had no problem leaving relationships. I was with my wife for 10 years, and after being with her for 10 years, I said, I'm done. This isn't working for me. And I was hurt, but I wasn't furious or angry. It's just we had come to an impasse. We couldn't get past it. I have no problem walking away from relationships, but I couldn't walk away from my borderline. She actually looked like that. I couldn't walk away from her because my nervous system had regressed to my infantile, toddler, grandiose needs for love and survival. So you're still there. How do I know that? Because you're full of rage and because you can't tolerate. If I just say it, about talking about how abusive they are and how they can only stay with narcissists in that video, and at some point I must have said they have a mental illness, they can't help it. You heard that they can't help it, and here's what happened. You got furious with that because you can't tolerate the thought of your mom not being able to choose to love you. Because if your mom can't choose to love you from an infantile perspective, it means you're going to die. And it means that you have no value. That's what it means to your unconscious. That's why it's so infuriating to you when I say they can't help it. Now, if you and I are walking down the street and we see somebody who suffers from schizophrenia, who, is walking down the street, and we look up in the sky and we see a plane. There was a movie, some guy with schizophrenia, that's why I remember it, did this. Walking down the street, they both look up at the plane, and the guy says to the schizophrenic guy says to the guy next to him, are you flying that plane right now? You don't get mad. You don't slap him across the face and pummel him and say, how dare you? You did that on purpose. You know that I'm not flying that plane. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh, he's mentally ill. He can't tell that he doesn't know. We can both go, he can't help it. But you can't say the borderline can't help it, because if you do, it means to your infant, you don't deserve to be loved. Your feelings have no value, and you're going to die. This is called codependent denial. You are still in a trauma bond. You are not thinking rationally. You are trapped in your neurosis. Psychosis means that you have a complete split from objective reality. You have an internal reality that's completely different from objective reality. Your borderline is psychotic. You are neurotic, which means that you know what reality is, but you just don't like it. The reality is that she has a mental illness. And she can't help it. And you're mad at yourself because you fell for it. So there's only one way out of this. You have to admit that you're still in love with her. You have to admit that you're still waiting for her in her rationality that she doesn't have. You're waiting for her to go, okay, all right, I've been choosing this whole time not to love you. I chose to hurt you. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it anymore. Come on, I promise I won't hurt you again. That's why you took her back every time that she hoovered you. And you're a perfect target, by the way. You are perfectly situated. If what you want is to get her back, stay in your rage. Because that lets her know that you're still under her control. She still has a trauma bond control over you, and she knows she can come back to you whenever she wants. She knows that your rage is meaningless. The thing that will destroy a narcissist is when you stop caring. So the opposite of love is not hate. You think your hate, you think your rage protects you from her. No, it doesn't. It makes you such a vulnerable patsy. Makes you so weak and able to be consumed. In fact, she is consuming your rage right now. Believe it or not, but on a energetic psychic level, even Jung talked about the collective unconscious. On the level of the collective unconscious, she knows that you're still in love with her and you're enraged, and she gets off on it. You think you're self-righteously overcoming something by telling her stop saying she can't help it. She knows what she's doing. She deserves to be crushed. She's feasting on you. It's the ultimate sign of weakness and helplessness. Your adult rage is the exact equivalent of a helpless infant in a crib, scream crying because they feel like they're going to die. And it's very sad. There's only one way out of it, my friend. How I survived my borderline girlfriend, I tell you exactly what to do. On this channel, I tell you exactly what to do. Do the one thing and heal. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is not rage, is not anger. The opposite of love is apathy. I'm apathetic towards my borderline. It means I don't have a feeling one way or another about her. I don't know what's going on with her life. I don't need to know. Somebody came and told me she died, I would feel, well, that's sad that she died. I would feel bad. She was mentally ill. If somebody said that she was in a relationship, I would say, okay. If somebody said that she had gotten better, I would say, good for her. I'm sorry, what were we talking about? I'm not attached. In fact, I have to think just to remember her name. It was only 3 years ago. So my friend, the only solution for you is to do the one thing. And I don't believe you will. Because here's the thing. Your rage is your life preserver. You believe that by staying angry, there's hope. Because here's something people don't realize. Little kids manipulate their parents. Temper tantrums are manipulations. When you have a temper tantrum on an unconscious level, your infant, because we all have, infants in our unconscious. When you are having a temper tantrum, you are actually trying to manipulate the universe into giving you what you want. Your rage, your superior looking down on her, taking pride in your feeling of justice and all of that is actually your scream crying infantile temper tantrum, and you're still trying to manipulate her into loving you. Probably as a kid you had temper tantrums against your mom, trying to get your mom to love you. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. Your only hope is to get out of denial, accept that she does have a mental illness, which means that she is psychotic, which means that she never truly understood what she's been doing, that she herself is in a trauma bond loop that she can't get out of. She's still trying to get her parents to love her, and she sees you as her parent, and she's desperately, psychotically trying to get you to love her the way that only a parent can. You can't, which is why no matter how hard you tried, it wasn't good enough. You have to accept the fact that you're still in love with her and that you don't have the choice to stop loving her because you have conflated your infantile nervous system survival need for love with actual love of another person. And the sad part is that this pain will never go away. Your anger will never go away unless you do the one thing. Therapy won't get rid of it. Nothing else will get rid of it. The one thing will do it. I talk about it in my book, How I Survived My Borderline Girlfriend. Amazon, Kindle, Audible. You can go to audiobooks.thunderwizard.com to get it. I normally don't respond now. I've got a new way of dealing with questions, but since I was going to make this video anyway, I went ahead and did it. But if you have a question about your borderline. If there's something that I haven't addressed that you want me to talk about, go to askmike.thunderwizard.com. I will make a video at least 10 minutes long addressing your question or your concern. And you can either have it privately, I can give you a private video, or we can do it, put it up here publicly on the channel so that everybody can benefit from it. I think it's a great idea. I hope it takes off. askmike.thunderwizard.com. That's it, my friends. There's only one way out of this. You got to do the one thing. Otherwise, I'm no different than John. If I hadn't done the one thing, I would still be furious. I probably would have been hoovered back, and I'd probably be in the hospital with a gun to my head, because that's how screwed up I am. But I did the one thing, and now there's nothing she can do. And I don't have any negative feelings towards her. I wish her nothing but happiness, but if she ends up driving off a cliff, it happens every day. You want to have that? Do the one thing. Get my book, How I Survived My Borderline Girlfriend. That's it, guys. I wish you all the best. Take care. I'm gonna make him suffer. No, Mommy, please don't.